First light. I like to say we left at first light with Chairman Mao himself chasing us in a police car, my father fighting him off with firecrackers even though Mao was already over a decade dead. And my mother says all my father did during the Cultural Revolution was teach math, which he was not qualified to teach, and swim and sunbathe around Piano Island, a place I never read about in my American textbooks, a place everybody in the family says they took me to and that I loved. What is it to remember nothing of what one loved, to have forgotten the faces one first kissed? They ask if I remember them, the aunts, the uncles, and I say yes, it's coming back. I say of course, when it's no, not at all, because when I last saw them, I was 3, and the China of my first 3 years is largely make-believe, my vast invented country, my dream before I knew the word dream, my father's martial arts films plus a teaspoon taste of history. I like to say we left at first light, we had to. My parents have been unmasked as the famous kung fu crime-fighting couple of the southern provinces, and the Hong Kong Mafia was after us. I like to say we were helped by a handsome, mysterious northerner who turned out himself to be a kung fu master. I don't like to say I don't remember crying, no embracing in the airport, sobbing. I don't remember feeling bad leaving China. I like to say we left at first light. We snuck off on some secret adventure while the others were still sleeping, still blanketed, warm in their memories of us. What do I remember of crying? When my mother slapped me for being dirty, diseased, led astray by Western devils, a dirty, bad son, I cried, 13, already too old, too male for crying. When my father said, get out, never come back, I cried and ran, threw myself into night, then returned at first light. I don't remember exactly why or what exactly came next. One memory claims my mother rushed into the pink dawn bright to see what had happened, reaching toward me with her hands, and I wanted to say, no, don't touch me. Another memory insists the front door had simply been left unlocked, and I slipped right through, found my room, my bed, which felt somehow smaller, and fell asleep for hours before my mother, anybody, seemed to notice. I'm not certain which is the correct version, but what stays with me is the leaving, the cry, the country splintering. It's been another 5 years since my mother has seen her sisters, her own mother, who recently had a stroke, who has trouble recalling who, why. I feel awful, my mother says, not going back at once to see her, but too much is happening here. Here, she says, as though it's the most difficult, least forgivable English word. What would my mother say if she were writing a poem? This poem. How would her voice sound? Which is really to ask, what is my best guess? My invented, translated, Chinese to English, English to English mother's voice. She might say, we left at first light. We had to. The flight was early, in early spring. Go, my mother urged. What are you doing? Waving at me, crying. Get on that plane before it leaves without you. It was spring, and I could smell it, despite the sterile glass and metal of the airport, scent of my mother's just washed hair, of the just born flowers of fields we passed on the car ride over. How I did not know those flowers were already memory. How I thought I could smell them, boarding the plane, the strange tunnel full of their aroma, their names I once knew, and my mother's long black hair, so impossible now. Why did I never consider how different spring could smell, feel, elsewhere? First light, last scent, lost country, first and deepest severance that should have prepared me for all others.